Hey, podcast friends. This is Dr. Steve Hewlett with the podcast Simple Healthy Choices for Weight Loss, where every week we help people who have realized that as their health has been declining over the years, the number of medications they are being prescribed is increasing. We want to help you reverse this health path so you can live the vibrant, pain-free, and hopefully medication-free life you deserve to live. If you'd like even more information on this topic, you can go to Amazon or Audible and pick up my book, Your Plate is Your Fate. And if you think my book helps you on your new health path, please tell your friends and leave a review where you purchased it. Hey, welcome back, podcast friends. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different. What we're doing today is we're going to be talking with Angela Jenkins again. And we've already interviewed her twice before, and one was really recently, but we absolutely forgot about something extremely important that we think is one of the most important things you can do. And we've talked about it in our past podcast about it before you make any changes in your life, especially if you're making major changes, like, for example, going from an unhealthy lifestyle to a healthy lifestyle. The very, very, very first thing you always have to change are your thoughts. Because as we've said over and over, your thoughts are what create your feelings. Your feelings create your actions, and your actions create your results. So if you don't like the results of something, the first thing you have to do is change your thoughts. And there is a major person behind a lot of these thoughts, these thinking, is a man by the name of Joe Dispenza. And he's someone that our son has introduced us to.
Yeah, years ago.
But we found out that Angela actually went to one of the retreats, or two of the retreats. I guess you went to the weekend one and then you went the full week one.
Well, no, I just went to the full week one. I dove straight in,
Okay. Well, now we've looked now, and you have to do the progressive retreat, the weekend one first.
And then you can go to the week.
I think they've changed it. But you could also do it online. So that was a question I was going to ask you if you did that. So you just got to go right for the week long.
Well, I did. You have to go through basically a testing process before you can go. So you have to pass the test.
Oh.
So he wants to know that you have a certain level of understanding before you get there. So that, I won't say everybody's on the same page, but at least somewhat has an understanding and an inkling of why they're there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because I think it's different for different people. The experience is different for different people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just amazing for me. But
I mean, I don't want to ask anything personal. I definitely want people to understand who Joe Dispenza is, what he says, and the huge impact that it made on your life and is making on millions of people's lives who listen to him. And so if you feel comfortable, if you just want to start right in, what do you want to say why you went to him in the first place? Was there anything in particular?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of my own health journey. I think a lot of us who go into alternative practices oftentimes are just, they're going through the conventional medical system and it's just not working.
Right, right, exactly.
So, and I don't know why this happened to me, besides maybe it's just to share my story too. I mean, I often believe that these things do happen for that reason, but when you're going through it at the time, it sure doesn't feel that way. So, right. So what happened is that, I'm probably sharing too much here, but I'm 55 years old. I'm a dietitian. I really do, for the most part, practice what I preach. And nobody's perfect, so I'm not even sure what that means anymore. but my kidneys were failing. And so, I went the conventional route. I went to my nephrologist, who I actually worked with too at the time, interestingly enough. Actually, and I'm going to say that I'm going to emphasize that because I believe that God put me in a position whereby I was going to have to stare the issue in the face. So I was covering inpatient in the hospital, and they said, well, would you go cover the dialysis unit, which is like my least favorite place to go on the planet. Well, no, not really. In the hospital system. Anyway. And I said, well, okay, right, reluctantly. But when I got over there, I was working with a patient population that I had then gotten my labs back. And I looked at it and I went, what on earth is going on here? And so I had to address it. And that was the lead in for why I ended up going to the Joe Dispenza conference, because, he's promoting essentially on some level spontaneous healings. Now there's a big jump from sick to spontaneous healing, but he teaches you how to affect it on basically what he calls a cellular level.
Right.
Which,
and I guess, should we start off with his story about he was in a major car wreck and he was suspended upside down in his treatment for months where he couldn't do anything but stare at the floor.
Right.
Was that right?
Well, he couldn't move.
Right, right. He was strapped to a bed. The bed was turned over, so he was kind of suspended. And all he had was his thoughts to deal with.
Right. And he thought, I'm sorry, again.
No, go ahead. If you know the story, because that's really about all I know. And I know he healed his own spine. He had spinal fractures everywhere, and he healed them with his thoughts. And that freaked everybody out. They had no idea that that was a possibility. And so he decided to go on to learn more about it and teach other people.
Right.
Is that kind of basically it?
Yeah, that is basically it. I mean, for the most part, he was able to, I mean, if he was being honest with himself, as we all have to be at some point in our lives, if we truly believe that the body has an innate ability to heal itself, then how is that? And what does that look like? And, what's the process associated with having that happen? And according to him, he had a long time to think about it. Right. So it's a great story. Although, stories are made up. That really happened.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's fascinating because the conventional medical system, they just want to watch. We'll just monitor it. And if I heard that
drugs,
right, or give it a lot of drugs and, treat the symptoms and never, ever affect the root cause.
Right.
And so I said, okay, well, let's just monitor my kidney function. I'm cool with that. You monitor it while I go figure it out. And that's what I did. So,
yeah. So what was the process? What kinds of things? And again, just real quick, and I promise I'm gonna quit interrupting. But the thing that I think about is he talks about we are all energy. We are all energy. And when you think about every single one of us, you break us down, we are just a bunch of cells. And inside the cells, we are a nucleus with the protons and neutrons, and you have electrons going around, but it's all energy. And he realized that if you can understand that and focus that energy, then basically the world is yours. You really can attract things to you and attract positive things to you. And the severe, horrible things that can happen to you when you do tend to always focus on negative things. When you focus on negative things, as soon as somebody tells you, you start looking at the bad side of things. And that really does affect energy within you and around you. And you really can attract that there. So it's no little thing about, quit thinking negative. It's like, no, we need to stop thinking negative, think positive about everything. There's always positive. You just have to look at it. And when there's negative things around, that's when it's even more important that you really focus on the positive, because it's easy to focus on the negative and there's nothing good about doing that.
Well, and he points out that most people are addicted to their negative emotions and they're unaware of it.
Yep.
So once, and you have this moment while you're sitting in this room full of, I think there were 1,500 people at the conference I went to, where, you're saying to yourself, do I do that? I'm like, oh my gosh, I do that. Maybe I don't say it out loud all the time, but the thing is that it doesn't, the universe or that energetic space, if you will, does not, and I call that, God, but it doesn't differentiate between whether you say it out loud or whether you say it in your head. So you have to take charge of that. You absolutely have to take charge of that. And I wrote down a couple of notes here that I'm going to share, because these were my takeaways from the conference. And the first is that thoughts become things. Mm-hmm. So be very cautious with what you're thinking. There's one thing to stay in beta brain and trying to fix a problem. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But recognize that that's not the space that you're going to actually create a new life from necessarily. Okay. Right. So it's the awareness that thoughts, they actually do become things. Mm-hmm. So if you have ever had the experience of, well, that'd be really cool if this happened, and you had this great sense of, just putting it out there, and then something along those lines happens, you've had the experience of what he's talking about.
Right.
Now, what he says, though, that's a little bit different from what you said a few minutes ago, Steve, was that you can decide your feelings about it. Mm-hmm. Your feelings are, well, the way he puts it is that you put out whatever your intention is. So that's your thought. You put out your intention and you actually draw it back to you based on how it is that you are going to feel as it's happening. Okay. So you start thinking in those terms, and that's a creative space, meaning that, I've decided, I'll just share one of my personal goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
My friends laugh at me. I'm like, no, it's happening. It's happening. Yeah. It's already happened. It's already happened. Yeah. And I am happy and elated about my house in Tahoe. Okay.
Nice.
All my friends are going to be able to come and visit. This is going to be my vacation space. I drove through Lake Tahoe one time and like, oh, I just feel well here. I'm like, I just want to go back all the time, So I'm going to have a house in Tahoe.
Yeah.
So what you do, you put out the energy for the house in Tahoe, and how does it feel? Because you have that, and you go to that feeling space, as opposed to maybe I don't have it right now, but the thing is that I will, and I'm going to feel, how am I going to feel when that happens? And that's the creative space. And he makes it very clear. You cannot walk out of there without understanding that.
Yeah.
So it's the clear intention with the elevated emotion. You can also create, by the way, from negative emotions too, which is what you were speaking of. So if everything, no matter what it is bad, then guess what? Everything will be, in fact, be bad that you draw to you. And that is, in fact, the law of attraction on a fundamental level. But it's the clear intention with the elevated emotion, and you decide to feel it. You purposefully do that. And then things happen. And I can give you an example here recently in my life. I was working with my financial investor, because this is the real life crux of how this actually functions. I was working with one of my financial advisors, and he goes, if you're really wanting to put this particular, it's called infinite banking. If you're really wanting to put this into motion, you're going to have to make more money. So, I took that to heart, and I was like, okay, and I knew he was right. So I'm like, okay, but there's anything that I make money at now, it just has to be in alignment with what I feel is the reason that I'm put on this planet. I just can't be anything,
Right.
I'm not going to go stand on a street corner. I'm not going to, go down through the list of things you're not going to do. Right? So I was vacuuming, and I'm thinking about this, it's going to be, what is it going to be? Is it going to be, what could it be? Could I pick up some additional consulting? Could I, I'm working at the farm or doing regenerative agriculture. Maybe that's going to be a piece of it, And while I'm vacuuming, this is literally 20 minutes after I started thinking about it, because you go into creative space as long as you're keeping your energy high about it.
Right.
And so I had a phone call from somebody I hadn't heard from in years, and it's somebody I had worked with in a consulting capacity. And he goes, hey, I just convinced the board to give you first right of refusal on this opportunity if you want it. And at first I didn't realize, like I didn't put it together, two and two together, that that's what had just happened. But it was probably a week later, and went, oh my gosh, that's what that was.
So this was a paying thing that you're going to do, a one-time thing, or
no,
a new job?
It's something consistent over time, and it really is turning out to be what I manifested it to be.
Right.
And that's the word, manifested it.
Yeah.
And it's a good match. And we're doing some additional programs now in cellular healing, cellular health. And here's the interesting thing about that is that some of the stuff that I'm learning actually talks about cell membrane regeneration, the importance of that. And they actually quote Dr. Bruce Lipton's work about the innate intelligence of the cell membrane, who Bruce Lipton, I consider that's kind of like the trifecta. Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, and Joe Dispenza. Those are the three people that are really the most recent pioneers in this work. And so they're quoting Bruce Lipton's work, and I'm just smiling because I'm like, but this is the truth. And we know it's true because we see it functioning all the time. And that is that when people are stressed, their health fails. Okay. But your body does not differentiate between whether it's physical, chemical, or emotional. And if you can take charge of that emotional stress, which is essentially what meditation does, you can ultimately control the outcomes of your health too.
Right.
So, I mean, the message, I keep getting it from the universe from different directions. And at this point, there's no misunderstanding how this actually works. So I still have to catch myself though. Sometimes I'm like, and this and that and that.
When you start thinking negative about things?
Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, hold on here. That is not how you create anything. You cannot. And the way Joe Dispenza puts it, you cannot create from lack. It's not possible.
Right.
You can create things you might not want in your life from lack, but you cannot create from lack. And so you have to recognize that you're doing it and just choose differently.
It's really, really weird, kind of along the same lines though, which we talked about it, but I forgot about it till you just brought it up. But same thing with me speaking. Last year, we just got the book out. We were working on the podcast, and I said to Theresa, it'd be neat if I could get some speaking thing. We're trying to figure out how we can get more as many people as possible to understand how so godly nutrition is and ungodly medication is. And so we got the book, we got the podcast, and I thought, man, if we could just do some speaking, I thought, man, that would be really cool. And it was within the week, I had 4 different people contact me about giving talks. So I did. I went and gave those talks, and then we kind of got busy. I thought, I hope this doesn't keep up. I hope it backs off. And it backed off. I didn't get any more. And here we were talking probably about 4 months ago. It's like, it's weird that I haven't given any talks, and I haven't really thought about it, but I think I'm ready. I'd like to give more talk again. I wonder if anything going on. And it's probably a week later is when I got a phone call about this tops, and they've asked me if I, as you know, would you give a talk? Oh, really? Would you give 2 talks? Oh, really? Would you give 3 talks? It's like, okay, yeah. So now I'll be giving 3 talks. And he was so happy to hear about you. I know you're giving 2 talks,
Right.
But it really is. My thoughts really were that at first I wanted them, there they were. Then I didn't want them, there they weren't. And then I want them again, there they were. And it's really weird because I didn't go out searching. It just came because I really, truly felt like that's something that I want to do. I want to learn how to become a good speaker, and I want as many people to know about this as possible. It's weird. I hadn't even thought about that till you just said that. It's like, there you go.
Right, and that's one big thing Joe Dispenza talks about, right? Is the feeling part. I mean, you have to feel it. That's why because
that's what draws it back in.
Right, because you can repeat it over and over what you want, but if you don't feel it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's the magnet. That's the magnet that draws it back in.
Right.
And this goes for future and past. So people, it's great to learn from your past. If you've had past experiences, like 100% of the people have, if you have past experiences and they were negative, just think of the experience to help you propel you forward. Don't put feeling to those past experiences, because once you start feeling however it was, if you were went through a divorce or whatever, you start feeling that, and that will start driving your negative thoughts or negative emotions, and you will start attracting negative things to you. So think about your past with nothing but thoughts, not with feelings. Learn from it and use that to go forward, but don't put feelings to things in the past if they were bad things, because the feelings will keep them coming back.
Right. You'll be living in the past is basically what you'll be doing. So you're drawing your past into your future. That's exactly right. And so the fascinating thing that happens, once you take charge of this, because anybody can do this. I mean, nobody's got the market on this, so to speak.
Right.
Dr. Joe Dispenza has what he calls the formula, which I believe, which is why people follow him. And he's so well spoken about it, and he's so passionate about it. And he's had so many interesting experiences, some of which he shares during these conferences. But once you start realizing it's going on in your life too. I remember sometimes it's something as simple as I was walking one day. I mean, I've got literally hundreds of examples. I'm just the ones that are coming to mind I'm sharing. And we've all had this experience, and I actually had just come back from the conference. I had a headset that was wireless, and I was out walking, and I had taken the headphones out so that I could just hear nature while I was out in the woods one day. And I lost one of the pieces, and it was like $150 for, the set. And I was like, the park isn't that big. Let me go back and look for it. Well, I went around the whole entire park, and then, I was irritated. I was frustrated. And then I took charge of it. I said, hold on here. You are not going to find this with that attitude. And I kid you not, literally the next step I took, I looked down, and there it was between my feet.
That's funny.
And I had to double check my other pocket. I'm like, did I lose the other one?
Yeah, really.
but just interesting stuff like that. And we've all had experiences like that, but we don't realize how much of it is actually it's us. It is
right. Yeah, right. That we're manifesting it.
So we have to be cautious, very cautious, because then it becomes a whole lot of fun, because you're basically having these experiences. And it almost seems like you're outside of yourself, and you're not. I mean, you've been given a body, but you're outside of yourself watching what's going on, and then you're deciding how to respond to it. So it takes some of the emotion out of it, because you realize that, how I respond to this instead of react. Because most of us are just walking around and reacting from one circumstance to the next, to the next, to the next. If I'm going to respond to this, what do I want the outcome to be? And it's just what goes through your head after that. How do I want this to work out?
Right.
Makes it a whole lot more fun that way too.
So you say he has like a recipe, a program. What is there something that you can tell us and you can tell the listeners? What are steps that you do? What are steps that he teaches you? I have no idea what the course is even like. I have no idea. We will definitely be going, and we're definitely going to take both our boys and whoever they want to bring.
Yeah, highly recommend the week long because it's like a total immersion. I mean, you're basically, when you go, I mean, I did all this pre-work just to understand it because I thought, I'm going to heal my kidneys, I'm going to do something other than what I've been doing because what I'm doing isn't working. It's the definition of insanity,
Right.
So what do I need to change? And, this became one of the things that I wasn't even aware to what degree it was affecting my health. So that was exciting. But the pre-work is part of it. But then you're sitting and he literally goes through the science behind why it works. And so, he talks about the cellular energy and that basically the energy that's within the cell, a lot of it is, it's not something tangible. You can't put your hands on it.
Right.
And so when you look at the fact that is the case with the cell, when you talk about influencing cellular energy, it's the frequencies that you put out that are the game changers. And again, if you take charge of that piece of it, now again, he goes into it down to like the atom level and then just builds up from there. So there's a lot of information around that. And then he does actually talk about like the different types of brain waves, beta, gamma, theta, all of those. Alpha actually is in there somewhere, but and where it is that you can create from. And then you just, what it comes down to is it comes down to practice. Okay.
Right.
Because what happens when people sit down to meditate, and this is pretty important, is that your mind just starts jumping around. It doesn't want to sit. It's used to moving around. It's not used to sitting and just thinking about nothing.
Right.
But what happens when you think of nothing, or if you think into the blackness, or you basically dissolve, he puts it like 100 different ways, but it's essentially the same thing. When you basically dissolve, whether it's the energy that you're carrying with you that you're not being able to go in creative space from, or whatever it is that's going on, but you're kind of putting everything back in its place. And then understanding that these things, if they are a resonant match for what your vibration is that you're putting out, then everything is not just happening. You're actually drawing it to you. But you have to be able to settle the rest of the background noise down. And that is the hard part. It's all the background noise for the things that don't actually matter that we end up feeding into for our lives. That is the difficult part. But once you come back from the conference and, you've basically spent a week doing this. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have really interesting and great experiences. And sometimes, maybe the energy in the room, because other people's energy does affect you.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, we used to say, I got a bad vibe from that person.
Yeah. And now we know we really did.
Yeah. So
no, I was just say, how long did you have your kidney failure until you were like, no, I've got to go do more than what them.
And what was the kidney failure?
Well, my GFR was in the 40s. So I wasn't feeling very well. I was super stressed. Part of it was, divorce related.
Right.
Although I think there was another component to it there because at one point I was craving citrus like crazy, which is how your body would naturally detoxify what we then identified as a potential cadmium toxicity. I had hair analysis done just to see what's going on, like where is whatever it is. Although I'm going to take it even further because of some of this other stuff that I'm doing with cellular healing. I think there's more that I need to work on, but I distinctly remember sitting one night though and feeling my kidneys flush, and it happened on 3 occasions actually. And I knew exactly what it was because, you also become more in tune with the things that matter in your life. And, and you have to be careful, especially when you're trying to heal something. You can place so much energy on it that it can become a fear thing. Mm-hmm. Or you can place energy on it with the understanding that you're giving it energy to help it heal, and basically telling my kidneys every day that I love them,
Right.
I love you, and please start working better again for me because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Right.
That sort of thing. So it's different. It's different types of energy, and fear doesn't heal anything. Love heals. Okay.
Right.
And one of the things that, he talks about is the frequency of some of those emotions, and there's love, and authenticity is a part of that too. When you're becoming your authentic self, then basically what happens is that you're just doing what you put on this planet for. And that's a whole lot of fun.
Right. It is. As you and I have both discovered, once you find your true passion, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. Yeah. And then even if you're working, it's not work. It's fun. It's your choice. It's what you feel pulled to do. So what were the steps? You found out you had kidney function issues. what'd you do? What, according to Joe Dispenza, what did you do? What did you change? Was it just that you thought, you started meditating, started thinking about it with your kidneys with love and
Yes, all of those things.
appreciation?
He says because you have cancer patients in there, you have people from, that are dealing with, pretty much anything you can think of. Okay. You've got people who are paralyzed that can't walk. You've got, when you look at everything that's going on in that room, but you realize that everybody benefits from what's going on in there energetically.
Right.
He says to, whatever you're doing with the conventional medical system, don't stop it. Especially if you believe in it and you think it's going to help you, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing those things. They're not going to, for the most part, tell you to do something that's hopefully not going to be helpful. But a lot of, we smile, right?
Yeah.
Let's monitor.
The days of old.
But it's our attitudes and beliefs that are this thing that is a driver for the healing from the meditative standpoint. And it's absolutely true that will alter DNA. And he goes through some of the science behind what they were able to identify even with COVID patients, but I won't go into that part of it. As far as the process, it's just learning how to meditate and shut your brain down. It is sitting sometimes for sometimes you're going from literally 4:00 in the morning doing a 4-hour meditation that, you question whether you're going to be able to make it through. And before you know it, you're through it and it's over. And you're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Yeah.
But it's learning how to meditate, learning how to shut your brain off, learning how to, this is how I put it. He puts it a different way. It's been a while since I've listened to him talk, but it's like we have to kind of get over ourselves in order to truly get in a meditative state. It's like whatever it was that was bothering you, you have to love yourself enough to just let it go. If it's really eating you alive, or it's, it's something that if you can't fix it or influence it, if there's nothing you can do about it, you have to love yourself enough to do that. And he goes through the fact that a lot of people don't even realize that they don't love themselves. And I had to look myself in the mirror and ask myself that too. And it's the coming to the fact that we are all divine beings. We are all God's creations. That's my belief. He has changed
ours also.
He has changed his word choice. He's believes in God also.
Right.
But he's changed his word choice, to include people who believe in other higher entities.
Right.
Because it's just as effective, because it's all based around our belief systems.
Right.
So if we, it's just raising your energy and learning how to stay on that trajectory in order to make sure that you can be effective. He does say, though, that the thing that is most influential for those folks who are having spontaneous healings are the folks who can sit in the morning and walk through their day in complete gratitude, no matter what happens.
Right.
They get up from their meditation. They got to that point where they were just grateful for what they had, and then things changed, and they changed fast. So
right. And I've talked to a lot of people, about meditation, and so many people are like, oh, I couldn't clear my head. I sat there, I'd have so many thoughts. It's like, you're not supposed to, especially when you start off. That's how everybody is. And you don't have to start off meditating for 4 hours. If you want to take 5 minutes, start off with 5 minutes, see how that goes. And as you're sitting there trying to be totally quiet, your brain will start wandering. That's normal. Everybody's does. Just as soon as you realize it's wandering, bring it back.
Exactly. And
then you'll be there and just think about nothing. And then all of a sudden you find yourself thinking about it. And once you realize it, bring it back. So that you're not trying to stop your brain from thinking at first. You're trying to train yourself to allow your body to stop, your brain to stop thinking. Yeah, to catch yourself and go back. And the more you do that, the more you practice, the better you're going to be. And the better you're going to be with the negative things that you come in contact with. Think, oh, I can just block that out. I can switch that. And how can I turn this into a positive type thing? And so that's kind of how I explain it to them. However, with full honesty, we don't meditate. I bet I've meditated a total of 10 times in my life. And I know we want to, and I seriously do want to. It's just a matter of now we got to figure out how to put that into our daily routine. Just put it into the routine and do it. So.
Yeah, I was grateful because and again, I feel like this is a God thing. I had somebody introduce me to Joe Dispenza's work. She needed a place to stay for a little bit, and she knew I had extra bedroom. She's literally knocking on my front door and going, "Hey, can I?" and then we start talking, and I was talking about my kidney. She's like, "Oh, you might want to try this." And I was at that point because not everybody's open to it. It just seems so weird to just sit and do nothing in today's society, for people to understand the absolute necessity of doing it is just pretty far out there for a lot of folks. But I'm here to tell you, it's a game changer. Like if I'm in a stressful situation, sometimes I can just sit and I can just deep breathe and and what feels to me like I've never actually had my brainwave function tested, although from what I understand, he does it routinely in the conferences now, because mine was, when I went, was in 2021, so it was in the middle of COVID, which is another issue. But it feels like I'm making myself high literally within 3 breaths, if that's what I want to do. So I can just sit there and just tune out. Sometimes, I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I do it at work too, but
I'll be honest, a lot of us knew you were.
Right. Angela, are you in there? No.
That's right. It's a key when you had drool coming out of the corner of your mouth.
Right.
So what exactly did you do to heal your kidneys? Was it just that every day you meditated and you talked to your kidneys? You loved your kidneys?
I love my kidneys.
Yeah. I mean,
plenty of fluid. I actually drank way more than what standard recommendations would have been. I drank way more. I say way more, 1.5 times what I would normally, as a dietitian. I mean, I calculate this stuff all the time, but I did a lot more than what would have been recommended. And then initially I was working with a holistic practitioner that put me on, it was a holistic, herbal based medicine for, basically helping your kidneys to flush. That was a part of it for a while. I still do this part of it because we live in a very toxic world.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's so toxic out there. I mean, the exposures are just everywhere. I did a detox bath. I still do the detox bath every night because it's just been such a habit that I'm like, I just actually really enjoy that. So there's no downside to it. So I do it's an Epsom salt, and believe it or not, there's like pink Himalayan sea salt. Our skin is an organ, so you absorb a lot of micronutrients from your skin and minerals. So those were the main things. And just if there were any other sorts of dietary habits that I was aware of that might affect kidneys, like alcohol is neurotoxic. So I cut that back big time while I was trying to heal. And I noticed big differences with that actually too, because I'm definitely a wine connoisseur, my red wine. So I had to back off on that for a little bit. There was, what else? I mean, that was the main part of it. Detoxing anything, just reminding ourselves what is the detoxification pathways. And there's basically 2. There's your gut. You got to make sure that you're, not constipated or you're sweating. Those are your 2 major ones. And so when you look at those things, make sure they're functioning properly, consistently.
And kidneys.
Well, yeah. Urinary.
Yeah.
So just making sure that you're supporting all of those systems as much as possible. And my GFR is now twice what it was previously.
Really?
Although I get to say, I think I probably started at a deficiency with that to start with. And so I'm continuing on going further with this other cellular healing stuff that I'm doing, which is, it just dovetails in nicely with everything else. So I was actually just listening to videos before we got on this call. So.
We'll have to learn more about that.
That's
super fun stuff.
Yeah.
Listening to videos from Joe Dispenza?
No,
for this other classwork for cellular healing.
Okay.
But, again, that's where that comment came from about, your body doesn't differentiate between the stressors. And of course, he deals with Dispenza with the meditation component, deals with it from the emotional side of things. But, physical, chemical, or emotional, your body is just stressed. It's just stressed.
Right.
So that's 1/3 of the overall picture is the emotional component of it. And if if you're an emotionally charged person and you can take charge of that piece of it, that's a big deal.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It was a big deal. Keeping yourself in the proper nervous system. So you're functioning not in the sympathetic, you're in the parasympathetic nervous system. So when you're able to keep yourself in that space, that's where the healing occurs. It doesn't occur in that other space where the fight or flight has taken over your life, which is where most of us spend the majority of our time.
Right.
And so if you can master these sorts of things, and I don't necessarily consider myself a master, but definitely a practicer, which is that, okay, that was stressful. I need to sit for a minute, deep breathe, recover. The recovery time for me, like back when I was super stressed, when I was having kidney problems, it'd be days sometimes. And now it's minutes.
Right.
So there's huge value in that because you're tapping into the right nervous system to just go on with your day rather than, what am I going to do?
Right. And it truly changes your whole life, because if you are meditating and you are loving yourself and you're staying in the positive thought of mind, you will also along the lines of everything that we're teaching here with food, you will also start picking healthier choices because you're going to learn you love your body. And if you love your body, give your body the nutrients it needs. But you're also going to be happier to other people. And so you will attract other people to you that want to be around happy people, because there are people who are so negative, they don't want to be around or happy people, and they draw the negative people to them, which sucks, because then to them, they're like, oh, everything's horrible. Everybody's negative. The whole world's going to pot. It's like, no, that's where you choose to live, And if you don't like it, you can definitely come over and live with us, where we are. We do think positive. I mean, I really do that. We feel like we think positive way the majority of the time, and you do attract that. So this is no little thing. This is huge. It will encompass your whole life. And if you can really do it, you can totally manifest a wonderful life for your future,
It alters your DNA. It absolutely alters your DNA. And like I was saying, some of the cellular healing stuff, I mean, I can now describe how it actually happens, which I couldn't before. But we know that people, when they do get stressed, we know that lots of times that's when their health cascades too. Yep. And so that correlation, well, actually we can call it causation, really, because if we don't take charge of that piece of it, there's just, your health isn't going to be well. It's just not. It can't.
Right. And this goes further. He had all kinds of examples of different things that people manifested, which, if you're trying to be a skeptic, if you're trying to look at the negative side of things, you're going to be, oh yeah, right, that really happened. But I know even in his book, or one of the books that I read of his, just weird things. I mean, just like money things, somebody really need money for something, and they really think about it, and they pray about it, and they think about it all the time with a positive emotion, and then what they're going to do with that money and how that's going to be positive. And then all of a sudden money starts showing up, either from a long lost aunt or uncle or something. I mean, money just kind of starts showing up for him, but that wasn't specific because I read this book like 5 years ago, but he had all kinds of different examples of that. So it's not just, think happy and your whole body's going to heal,
Right. No, it actually does manifest itself in the third dimension, because he talks a lot about the different dimensions too while you're there. I mean, basically you spend the majority of your time while you're in there meditating. He's talking a lot. Well, maybe it's half and half, but if you have a 12-hour day, it's at least half and half. So you're spending 6 hours a day meditating, so you get a lot of practice. And that's the thing, there's a lot of people who I guess come in and they think, well, you promised that, I'd heal myself. And he'd be like, well, it didn't get broken overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. And so how are you doing with your meditations? Well, I'm not doing them. Well, you have to practice.
Right. Yeah.
Now, did they do the walking? Did you do the walking meditations? I see him talk about that.
Yeah, I have. They're fun.
Because I would think for us, because we like to go for walks in the morning and, like incorporating it at that time.
Yeah, it's totally possible. He's got a lot of meditations that can be purchased online. I like his style of meditations. Some people don't care for it because, he's got a very forceful voice, but I pretend like he's God telling me what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right.
So it just works for me. I like, somebody to be authoritative because he's very direct with what he wants you to do during the meditation, but it depends on what it is that you're trying to change relative to which meditation you might want to try. Because again, if you're putting the intention out there for what it is that you want, choose the meditation. Like if you're wanting to create something that doesn't currently exist, like the alchemist, you are the alchemist of your life. And if we look at it that way, there's really no going back from there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So the clear intention with the elevated emotion really is actually, from what I understand, because I haven't actually read the other stuff, is part of the formula, if not the formula. It's not super complicated, but again, just like good health and nutrition, where there's all this background noise of information that complicates the very relatively simple picture.
Exactly.
And as long as when we're able to see that, you have to be careful though once you go to one of these conferences, because when you come back, you're like, oh, there's all that background noise that I'm not going to do that anymore. And so there's a lot of picking and choosing going on.
Yeah. Like clean out your house.
Well, and I think at one time you had told me, because some of the people that like you create like a community, like you have made friends and then you still connect with them, and some don't haven't done as well as you. Like they don't practice maybe. I mean, like you just come back from a conference and don't meditate. You know, you can go and just come back and not do anything differently.
Right. It's the same thing as, following a meal plan that, that you or I would prescribe, and we'd say, hey, this is how we need to do this. And then for whatever reason, people stop doing it. It's the same thing. I have maintained that, I don't feel totally well unless I do it on a given day. So like if I go a whole day without it, like the other morning, somebody called and they're like, oh, can you come jump my car? It's like 6 a.m. I'm like, well, okay. Oh, that's right. I like to help people. So, okay. So, I go, so I go, you get over there with a happy heart and you'll say, okay, get the jump, but then you forgot to meditate. Because sometimes things like that are going to happen. But then by that night, I'm like, oh, I just need to sit and just do nothing.
Right.
And, sometimes it ends up being a much longer meditation than I would have done in the morning. And it just becomes part of your life. And when you realize how much better you feel because you're de-stressing by purposefully thinking about nothing, it's like, no, why wouldn't you do that if it were that easy? And it's just habit. That's all it is. It's just habit.
Now, earlier you said something about the dimensions. What dimensions were you talking about? Do you know?
Well, yeah, he talks a lot about the third dimension versus the fifth dimension. Like some people consider, well, we live in a 3-dimensional reality. So sometimes in conversations, I'll say something to people who are into what we call the woo-woo.
Right.
I laugh about it because I come from a background of absolute concrete science, which there is concrete science about this. It's very difficult to explain because the fifth dimension, what is the fifth dimension? I consider that basically where God is, but it's just the understanding that they're third dimension. So if you can touch, I can't remember exactly how he explains it, but it's like you can touch a table because you're in a third dimensional reality. The reason why this is where all the fun stuff happens. So you can create in this space, but the actual, how does he put it? Like, what is Wi-Fi?
Don't ask us.
Yeah.
Well, you see what I mean? Like, what is Wi-Fi?
No.
You can't put your hand on it. It's not tangible, but yet we know it's there and we know that it works.
Right.
That's kind of the way that I explain it to people a lot of times because I don't actually know what it is. How do you know what that is?
Right.
How do you dissolve yourself into nothing?
Right. And just like you said with Wi-Fi, you don't have to understand exactly how it works to use it.
Right.
Just use it, just do it. I mean, everybody says, and everybody talks about meditating. Everybody in our space, everybody talks about meditating all the time.
There's no downside to it.
Yeah. There
really isn't.
Yeah.
There are those that will say that, there are some bad beings out there because if you're meditating, you're going into a space where you could invite some negative energy in. And on rare occasion have I been around people that are talking in that way. Dispenza says there's nothing scary out there. He's like, there's nothing scary out there. What are you worried about? What's the harm in trying? And so that's kind of the position that I took about it because I'm like, well, if so, then good point. Okay, I'm in. Let's go.
And it is crazy. I mean, we're the only animals who can worry about something and put us in a major stressful situation of something that hasn't even happened yet. And most things never do come to fruition. We sit there and pull a what if this? Oh, but what if this? Oh, but what if this? And you psych yourself out thinking, no, I'm just being prepared. So if something like this happens, I'm going to know what to do. It's like, no, you're not. You're just worrying. You're worrying for nothing. And it's so important to realize there's so many things people worry about that they have no control over whatsoever.
Right.
Why waste time worrying and stressing yourself and people around you out on something that none of you have anything you can do about it? Just leave that to God and go about the stuff that you can do.
Well, have you ever been around people that have literally drawn the worry to them?
As in?
Well, I know somebody that keeps getting accident after accident after accident, never her fault. But, her narrative, and this is what we have to be cautious of. If your narrative has become that I attract this stuff and you say that out loud, guess what happens? You
do attract it. Yep.
And so you have to decide to choose differently because, once you're aware that that is potentially, something that you're doing to yourself, that becomes like a lot of people's illnesses become their identity. That's another piece of it.
Right.
I started working with a couple of folks that, when you talk to them, they are their illness. And And so we have to have a conversation when they do that about, let's choose different words because your words do mean things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you're putting out there to the universe or God or whatever is quite literally what comes back to you. So if you believe you're sick, then you're sick.
Right.
If you call it your cancer, then it is your cancer.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if it's the cancer that's in your body that you're planning to get rid of, totally different narrative.
Right. Right.
I will overcome this. It's here right now, but it's not going to be here forever. Let's figure out how to get that done, sort of thing.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to say that everybody's successful in doing that, but the thing is that, if your thoughts become things, then taking charge of that piece of it definitely means that you're going to move it the right direction.
Right. Exactly.
Easier said than done.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Which goes back to practice. Just it's something you have to practice, and we know that. And maybe this podcast will make us start doing it.
Well,
just set aside a time.
Let me put this out there, though, before you go.
Okay.
Are we at time? We're getting close.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. There is a group that meets. It's not an official sanctioned group, but anyone can join it on Telegram. It's the Go Love group, and it's one of his meditations. So if you go on YouTube, you can actually pull down the Go Love meditation, and it's always a good place to start. I tell people, I've had people who have done it, like family members even that were going through illness, and they'd call me back after, that was so beautiful. I can't believe that this is what you do. You do this all the time. And I'm like, yeah, if I can, I do. They meet twice a week on Thursday evenings and Saturdays. And there's actually other meditation groups in and around like this area. And so I just encourage people to find something that they're comfortable with wherever they're at and just get engaged with it because there is full community around this.
Right.
The lady who runs the Go Love meditations is she's just lovely.
Yeah. Surprise.
Just on YouTube. You just go to YouTube and put in Go Love Meditations.
Yeah, that's Joe Dispenza's. If you want to join the Telegram group, just message me and I'll give you the link for it. And then, you just join in whenever you're available. She has them every, did I say Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays.
Yeah, Thursdays.
Now, what do you mean join? What do you do? What's a Telegram thing?
It's just you
physically get together with people and meditate together, or
on a Zoom call, you meditate together. She puts out 8 people that we meditate and send love to. So you get to practice doing that. There's some music beforehand, and then you do the meditation, and then there's some music afterward. And they do 2 rounds of that are ends up being a half an hour a piece, and people come and go as they can. And I think it's good practice because, like we go through our day, and this is where it was helpful to me, is to knowing I had a consistent place and a consistent reminder that love is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talk about family members like, oh, I love you. I tell everybody I love them now.
Right.
And sometimes it's a little awkward because they're not in the same place I am, but I'm like, well, it's what we do anymore.
Yeah. Theresa got jealous of you the other day when you told me that.
Well, and you're like, when I saw you guys, and I'm like, love you guys. And I'm like, well, I did it again.
No, we did too. We're good to love.
Yeah. So it's just, what the funniest thing is, it just helps to keep your energy high. And the more you share that with people, it just creates this whole higher level of resonant energy that is just, it's not compromisable. It's really not.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah. If you want to enjoy your life, and that's totally up to you, whether you enjoy your life or not. No. Yeah. Things happen to you. But again, it all depends on, the same thing. It all depends on what you do with the things that happen to you. What do you think about the things that happen to you? What do you feel about that? And switch them so they help you,
Yep.
Don't fall into, if something negative happened, don't fall into that and become a negative being. Just switch it around.
Yep.
So,
all problems are opportunities. And then your life is one decision after another. It's not one thing that happened to you over and over and over again.
Exactly.
A lot more fun that way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, is there any closing thing, anything that, your kidney, you doubled your GFR. So now you're up to 80.
Yeah.
See, that's awesome.
High 70s. I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to go through some other stuff, but I just, cause I'm, I like to take things to the extreme. Like if we got that figured out, we can figure out the rest of it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I recommend, anyone who ever asked me about a Joe Dispenza conference, I highly recommend it. He has the message drilled down to, you cannot leave there and not understand it. And obviously I went, actually it's almost just over 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And I still meditate every day. It had such a profound influence on my life, just not on my health, just my health in general, but it's led me down a like total other paths of understanding that I would have never gone down had I not had the experiences that I had there.
Right.
And yeah, there's no downside. Absolutely no downside.
Have you gone on to his actual station, Gaia? Is it GA?
No.
That's not him?
You asked me that a lot. No, he's just been on there.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's where we watched him also, was whatever that is.
He has like a documentary on there.
Yeah.
On something.
And then
we
that's always
to his
interesting
book.
to listen to.
Yeah. And I always like listen to him being interviewed. So.
Oh, right. So well spoken. Just
yeah.
very targeted messaging.
Yeah. Because when you go to those conferences, he says that, like what you just said, he wants you to be able to teach it.
Right.
Yeah.
You cannot leave there and not at least, have the message of your thoughts become things, and where you place your thoughts is where you place your energy, and taking charge of that piece of it and deciding if you're going to manifest forward, that basically putting that very clear intention out there about what you want. And even as you go through exercises on how to do a clear intention with an elevated emotion. So how are you going to feel when you get what you want?
Right.
And you just hold that space. And he gives some just some amazing examples of like how on earth did that actually come together in that way, And then you realize that some of these things are actually going on in your own lives when you hold your energy high and you have that clear intention and elevated emotion, and you're not even doing it intentionally. It's just happening now.
Right.
It's just the way your life is.
Right.
Right.
Now, I say that in the context too, there will be things that will still happen. I mean, there are things, but then you realize that that's not yours.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you didn't feel that way. And then you're like,
Right.
Yeah, no. And then again, I mean, you have some decisions to make, but
well,
it's so much more fun this way.
That's right. Knowing that you're in charge. Yeah. Yeah.
It's also a little scary if you're not one of those people who likes to take charge. But when you're in full on, okay, well, if that's so, then you start going down through the if-then statements of, okay, nobody's going to do this for me. So I guess I better get this figured out.
That's right. Well, Angela, thank you so much for doing this. I know this was just kind of an off the cuff thing, but once we signed off last time, I can't believe we totally forgot to talk about you going to Joe Dispenza. Yeah. So we thought, we'll just do a whole podcast on it.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
It really is.
Really
I love to talk about it, actually, because it's so much fun.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
And so important.
Truly.
Well, thank you so much. Any last parting words you want, or is that good?
Choose, manifest, choose well. I mean, just decide what you want.
That's right. Okay. Choose well.
Clear intention with an elevated emotion.
There you go. There you go. That's the key. That's the ingredients.
Yep.
So once again, thank you guys so much for joining us on this podcast. Have a great week. And as always, make simple, healthy choices to live a quality life. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button below and be sure to tell someone else who may want to change their health path as well. And don't forget, you can also purchase my book, Your Plate is Your Fate, on Amazon or Audible. And if you do, please leave a review.